one right in the middle.
Yep, all good.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me in there? Not just because we're in the front row. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you guys hear me in the back? Fantastic. Okay, well, let's get started then. Hi, everyone, and it's great to see actually a fantastic turnout for the first day of MADFEST, I think. My name is Juliet, and I am from Channel Factory. At Channel Factory, we specialize in brand suitability and performance through contextual on YouTube. But today, we're actually here to talk about another topic that we are hugely passionate about at Channel Factory, and it's very important to us in everything that we do, and that is investing in your brand's future through investing in diverse creators and strategies. So here to join me today, we have Kara, Vanessa, and Will. If you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Hi guys, so my name's Kara McClure. I work for Mindshare. I've been doing SEO for 10 years, but as of yesterday, I ended that kind of lane of things, and I'm now Global Partnerships Director for Unilever.
Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa Vidad. I'm from ISBA. I currently manage our CRM and systems, but I also co-lead our diversity agenda.
Hi, I'm Will McMahon. I'm head of ad tech at Foundry.
Great. It's actually kind of tricky to hear you guys, but if we
Yeah,
can hear each other,
let's get there.
let's get a little bit closer. Yeah.
I can't hear a thing you're saying, yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just be asking the questions, and we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to jump into it. So we're talking about proactive approaches and proactive strategies here today. So for you guys, what proactive strategies are you seeing brands, agencies, industry bodies using to ensure that we're seeing more diversity and inclusion in our advertising practices? Will, if you want to kick off.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. There's a huge number of opportunities in the space. One of the ones we're looking at is trying to create kind of a diverse network. So we've got a product at Spark Foundry, which we're opening out across Publicis called DIME, which stands for Diverse and Inclusive Media Exchange. And it serves to do two things in essence. The first is to try and find sources of inventory that reach more diverse communities. So that might be across BAME, LGBTQ, even neurodiverse communities. And then the other half of it is trying to reward publishers and content creators who are actually reporting on diversity in an inclusive way. So for instance, if somebody is possibly taking an anti-abortion stance on things or spreading misinformation about abortion, we don't want to spend with them. As simple as that. So that means if we can start funding ad dollars into those platforms that do take responsible attitudes towards things, well, first of all, we get to reach more people because we've got more inclusive media on our schedule. So reach more people within the UK, great, happy for advertisers. Better for those publishers that are working in that space and rewarding them with some more ad budget versus where it typically might have gone previously. And then finally, hopefully it's just good for society because we're trying to funnel it into channels that are being responsible with the way they talk about media and the way they go about things. So, I mean, that's what we're doing. There's so many different things going on.
I mean, Vanessa, you're more in a position as kind of an industry body, so what are you seeing?
We're seeing that there's no one-size-fits-all solution to this. It's a journey, and I think everyone's got to understand that it's a journey. And you've got to do what is relevant and genuine to your brand. And that's when audiences will start to connect with you. If they see that you are connecting with diverse creators or working in publications that speak to their communities, but you're doing it in a genuine way, then they will respond better. And that's what kind of we're seeing with the brands that we're working with.
Yeah. And Kara, what about in your role at Mindshare?
Yes, I think just to echo what these two guys have said, I think for us, we've got kind of inclusive planning framework that we've started to build. So that's like when we get briefs through from clients, we get people from different ERGs. So we have ERG groups. I chair the Roots one, which is focused on Black employment and Black empowerment. And we have the other ERGs that are focused on working parents, the women's group, LGBTQ, the disability group, the working class group, and things like that. So anyone from those panels, when we get a brief through, we would kind of sit, any of the ERG leads would sit on the panel, and then we'd kind of understand the brief from a diverse perspective, and whatever the target audience they're trying to, target, we would then kind of influence that brief, or we would say, maybe you should think about this, or you should think about that, depending on your target audience. We also work with the DSC as well, who are, they're focused on diversity and inclusion from a company's perspective, so looking at the employment recruitment side as well as the brand advertising side. Because I think there's two sides to the coin, right? You have to understand if you're a brand that wants to push inclusivity and diversity, what are you doing with your employees at the same time? You can't put out advertising campaigns that are diverse if from the ground up, the people that are doing that work, you're not giving those the same equal opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. It ties into what Vanessa was saying too on it needs to be a genuine desire and like it has to be a genuine approach. So what do you think are the challenges, I suppose, or what are the key challenges? I mean, obviously there's a huge amount and we only have 15 minutes, so we probably can't cover everything. But what do you see as the key challenges that you're seeing with the brands that you work with and how they're trying to approach or implement diversity and inclusion strategies?
I think for some of the brands, there's a fear perspective. You know, the fear of getting it wrong, the fear of it affecting your brand value, the fear that it's just going to land wrong, but you're trying to do a good thing. So I think you've got to, again, it comes from that place of being genuine. If you're genuinely doing it because you know it's important, your audiences will react to it and in a meaningful way. I think there are loads of challenges. You've got the business challenge, the please prove to me that this is financially beneficial for our organization. So you need measurement. So that's one of the big challenges. I think, Kara, Will, I know that there are other challenges that face.
I think as well, I think it's about not coming across that you're just doing a tick box. I think a lot of the time with the genuine aspects of it, it's like, where do you find the line between a brand that actually genuinely cares, or they're like, oh, we're not being very diverse today, let's get someone from a particular background, or someone who may be disabled, or someone from the LGBTQ community, or something like that, to make us seem like we're being inclusive or diverse. I think as well, a lot of people don't understand the difference between inclusive and diversity. There's a massive difference. So you can have something that is diverse, but are you being inclusive? Because you can have, an advert that includes people from all different ethnic backgrounds, but they may be all women. How is that being inclusive of everything else? Or how is that being inclusive of people that are not from the same, they may have a disability, they may identify as a different gender, whatever it is. So I think a lot of the brands now, they're facing a challenge of, I guess, trying to look like they're being genuine, and there's a fine line, and they're not understanding the difference between diversity and inclusion. And I think as well that a lot of the people that are making the decisions don't necessarily understand, or they haven't had that struggle. So if you're trying to do a campaign that particularly, I guess speaking from my experience, focuses on black people, if the people that are making those decisions are all white, how do you rectify that? How do you make it more genuine and inclusive if you don't really understand where we're coming from? And I think we were speaking about earlier in terms of we shouldn't be the ones to be educating people on what to do. There should be allies. So it's about finding that balance between the allyship and being genuine in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. That actually, I was going to ask you on the point about making sure that you're not just ticking a box. How have you guys seen in your roles these strategies or initiatives being embraced and applied, I suppose, more on the ground root level? Everybody talks about it and wants to put it on a slide in a presentation, but then how do we see it being embraced and really implemented? Will, what have you seen?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a few elements to it because there's so many different things we could talk about. I think at a fundamental level, the reason that diversity is seen as a challenge is because it's change. We're asking people to change slightly, and people don't like change because it's difficult and requires some work. But it doesn't actually have to be that difficult. You can start to do very basic things. So, for instance, if you've not reviewed your keyword exclusion list for a while, have a look at those. I had a lot of them were developed maybe 5 years ago. And often without any level of diversity in mind, just about being super brand safe, to Vanessa's point about brand safety. So I was looking through one the other day and I was finding words like, basically, we managed to block 2 major religions, half of the Middle East, and virtually anybody that wasn't straight. And it's a bit like, if you're trying to reach diverse communities, but also like just young people, like maybe you don't want to be in really, really bland content that's only talking about what should we eat for Tuesday night dinner. So, although I do want to know what I want to eat for Tuesday night dinner, but at the same time, it's about figuring out how we can start to expand things and think a little bit differently.
Yeah, so everybody wants to embrace strategies, but you also need to look at maybe the block list that you have in place at the moment.
Yes.
Vanessa, what about you?
Look at your brief. How are you briefing your agencies? Ask your agencies, what are they doing in the diverse media space? So are they putting your content in front of diverse communities? What publications are they using? Are they using minority-owned publications? Are they actually reaching out to these, smaller publications that speak to specific communities? Because the majority of what people are selling, everybody needs, Everyone needs batteries, everyone needs water, everyone needs toilet paper. You're speaking to everybody. So talk to your agencies, look at how you're briefing. and start to think about what you as a brand can actually do, what is workable for you, because not everything is workable for everybody. So have a look at what's workable for you.
Yeah, exactly. And then I suppose my final question would be, again, this could have been, the whole topic could probably be this question, but what have we seen, or have you guys seen in your different roles in terms of successes and learnings? I know we talked a lot about, don't stand still. So it's better to have a learning and a success. Kara, what about you? Is there a success or a learning you can share that you've seen in your role so far?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, for us, I think it's like, how do you define success?
Yeah.
Because I guess if you're trying to be diverse and inclusive, again, there's a tick box aspect to it, but then it's like, how do you define being successful if you're doing an advert that should include everybody that in the ad anyway? So I've seen a lot of, I think we were speaking about earlier, the Dove campaign, one of the first Dove campaigns I saw, and it was one of the first times I saw an ad with women that weren't size 8 or size 6, and they were curvy, they were from different backgrounds and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of successes that have been made across the industry, and we've had loads of great client work through Mindshare where we've kind of impacted things from the inclusive planning framework, and campaigns have gone great, and there's always learnings to understand why was that decision made? Was it just a fluke, or was it actually because you were trying to do something that was being inclusive? But I think the learnings aspect is just understanding what is your brand narrative, what do you care about, and if you're going to target that audience, just make it authentic. I think the main thing to be successful, I think, with doing diversity and inclusion is just be authentic, and then I think you won't come across as trying too hard because you're being authentic with what it is, because you can't appeal to every different group that would want to, I guess, be included or be diverse. So it's about understanding that, I think.
And Will, what about you guys? Is there any brief learning or success that you can share?
Brief, okay. Obviously diversity is its own reward, but for anybody who doesn't necessarily buy that argument intrinsically, we've become the most diverse media agency now, I believe. Definitely top 2. And in the last year, we've had a ridiculous year. So we've won more awards than ever. We've won 14 new clients. We've increased our billings by 214 million. Really climbed up the rankings in terms of agency success. So diversity doesn't just mean that you have a diverse crowd, and that's a good thing intrinsically, but also it shows that you have a culture of diversity and that you're willing to appreciate good ideas no matter where they come from. And that flows all the way through in terms of ideation and creating good ideas that ultimately win you more business and drive innovation. So my learning is be diverse for that reason.
Yeah.
Quick one, be brave. If you're being authentic and you're doing it from a good place, you will get there. If you don't have the internal people to support you that are from diverse backgrounds or from protected characteristics, ask the communities, ask consultants. There are so many initiatives out there that will connect you to the right people. So be brave, it's the right thing to do.
That is an excellent point, Vanessa, to finish on. And it actually kind of ties into, I think, everything that came out of there, which is you have to have a genuine approach and have representation.
Yeah.
You can't be... you need to have a lot of representation at the table in order to come up with a genuine approach, really.
Yeah.
I know that is time for us, unfortunately. I wish each of you could have had 15 minutes to yourself, to be honest. Maybe next year, watch this space for an hour-long chat. Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful MADFEST.
Thank you.
And come join us at the Channel Factory Arms as well.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.